Gore just delivered one of his worst starts as a Washington National, and Miguel Cairo seems a little lifeless.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And yes, we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. And later on in today's program, we have got a Reds-Nats series preview. Tonight, 6:45 first pitch. And also, Brad Lord is back in the starting rotation. What do we make of that? We'll have that discussion later on. And in the second segment, it is a Monday. We are back to our regular scheduled programming, assuming the Nationals do not fire anyone else, but it is a Nats stock report Monday. Who's been up and who has been down? But we start off discussing the worst start for MacKenzie Gore as a Washington National, but also Miguel Cairo. I want you to do something different. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That is FanDuel.com. And MacKenzie Gore is coming off just yesterday the worst start as a Washington National. In 2 1/3 innings pitched yesterday, he gave up 8 earned runs. And in that first inning, before getting an out, loading up the bases, Xander Bogaerts, the guy who has not been very good for the San Diego Padres, has a grand slam, and it was 4-0 Padres, and the Nationals had no chance after that. Yesterday's game, watching MacKenzie Gore, he did not get the break that he needed in the All-Star break. He did not get the time off that I think a lot of players really needed, and that's kind of the downside of the MLB All-Star break. But even then, there's no excuses for that. MacKenzie Gore was just flat out bad yesterday. He did not have his good stuff. He even admitted it after. He said, I was bad today. So what do I really make of yesterday's start? It's going to happen over the course of 162 games. You are going to have those starts that, quite frankly, if we're just being honest, that might go down as MacKenzie Gore's worst start in his career. Like, after his 15-year career that we all anticipate, he's probably going to look back at that start and say, that was my worst one ever. And especially going up against the team that drafted him, that developed him, that he thought that he would be with for a long time. That is a brutal start to have, because MacKenzie Gore has actually pitched well against the Padres. But in this time around, at home against his team that drafted him, he was awful. So MacKenzie Gore did not have his good stuff yesterday. That's the only explanation. He was throwing middle, and the Padres, they were not missing in yesterday's game. It was a bad start for MacKenzie Gore. Beyond that, though, I want to get into this because we have not really talked about Miguel Cairo too much. And while the Nationals did have a solid-ish weekend, they won 1 game of 3 games after the All-Star break. But I want to talk to Miguel Cairo. The bad thing with Davey Martinez was that he seemed a little lifeless. Davey Martinez was not up in the umpire's face. He was not getting on the ground on home plate and getting ejected from a Tuesday game at 12:05 p.m. I kind of need that. This Nationals team at this point, and I think this weekend kind of showed it, this team is a little lifeless at this point in time. Your best player, James Wood, has been in a huge slump, a massive slump, the biggest slump of his short career at this point. CJ Abrams has been doing his best. Your all-star closer, Kyle Finnegan, is blowing games. Now, you have to pick and choose your battles as a manager, but there are instances where you can get a little life in this team. And that is something that Davey Martinez used to do, but these past few seasons, You have not seen him get ejected. And just before we kind of dive into that a little bit more here, just getting ejected is not enough. I don't need you to go out there and get ejected, but it does show that you have some life in this team. This is a soulless, lifeless team at this point. And it kind of sucks to watch, if we're being honest. Losing the way that the Nationals did this past weekend stunk. Seeing that the Nationals tied the game on Friday night, having a 2-0 deficit, you come back, you tie it in the 8th inning, Kyle Finnegan comes in and blows the lead in the 9th inning, or blows the game, really, after having a nice little comeback in the 8th there. This team just feels lifeless at this point in time. And oh, by the way, we are 10 days away from the trade deadline, which Ken Rosenthal has said that the Nationals will be shopping Nathaniel Lowe, shopping Kyle Finnegan, shopping basically all the veteran players that aren't part of this long-term future. This team needs a kick in the you-know-what. We need to have some life back in this thing. And that starts with Miguel Cairo moving forward. I cannot watch this team with the way that they have been playing. I can't watch this team every single day and say, you know what, this is actually kind of fun to watch the young guys. It's really bad. This is a bad team right now to watch. And it's not even just for the results. It's really just more so about there is no life surrounding this team. There is this dark cloud that has surrounded this team since you have moved off of Mike Rizzo and Davey Martinez, and they have not been able to get the brain fog out of it at this point. This is a tough watch right now. And again, if it were up to me, I'd be having Miguel Cairo's back, and I would be the one saying, listen, you got to get some life back in this thing. The next bad call by an umpire, you have to go ballistic. The next time that a team comes in town and they just stomp all over you, you better go ballistic. I need to see some life from the players and also the manager, because the manager is the one who sets the tone. And if the tone is, doesn't matter, then guess what? The player's tone will also say that it doesn't matter. Miguel Cairo, please get ejected. And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And again, later on in today's program, we've got to talk about Brad Lord being back in the starting rotation, and also, more importantly, the Nationals Red Series. We've actually got some pretty fun matchups for this series, and we'll have that preview for you later on in today's program. But we'll talk about the Nats stock report next. Whose stock is up and whose stock is down. And yes, get the supplies that you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is a reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. You need help in an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free TradeMaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. So join the TradeMaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That is supplyhouse.com. And we jump back into it with a Nats stock report. This is your latest individual performance of your Washington Nationals. But thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And catch me out over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and our show page at LO_Nationals. But now we jump back into it with the Nats stock report and our stock up. Not going to lie, it's kind of hard to find some stock ups, but I'm going to go with Paul DeJong. A 6-game hit streak. His slug in that time frame has improved from a 276 to a 342 in that span. And at this point in time, Paul DeJong is either going to be DFA'd or he's going to be traded. That decision will come within the next 10 days here, which will make it slightly interesting. Here's the upside for Paul DeJong for the Nationals at this point. Number one, he has been a very good defender for this team. You can place him anywhere around the diamond, and he has had some success here. So kudos to Paul DeJong for that, because this team defensively, they needed a boost, and he has provided that this season. But number two, he came here, and we wanted to see some power. That is why the White Sox traded him to the Royals last year, and that's why the Royals bought in on him pretty damn heavily, because they wanted some power. And right now, with where Paul DeJong is, we did not really see it in the month of April before he got hurt and got hit in the face there. It was a brutal injury, came back a few weeks ago. And Paul DeJong, since then, has actually started to hit for some power. He's starting to see the baseball a lot better than what he was previously back in April. And now all of a sudden, he's kind of putting himself in a territory where the Nationals might be able to flip him at the deadline. It's not going to be anything good. It's not going to be anything that you're like, man, I can't wait to watch that guy. But then again, you think back to John Lester in 2021 when the Nationals, they bought in on him, brought in John Lester. They traded him away for some guy named Lane Thomas. Well, Lane Thomas ended up being an all-star caliber player for this team and was one of the Nationals' bright spots over these past few years. And again, they flipped him at the deadline and got a really good return for him with the Cleveland Guardians. So you never know with these kind of older veteran guys and what you could get and what teams see value in them. So if the Nationals do decide to flip Paul DeJong, maybe we'll see what happens with them. But a stock up since his return, riding that 6-game hit streak. And a stock down for someone we mentioned in that first segment who has been struggling immensely. That is James Wood. James Wood is in the worst slump of his career at this point. And, I know what everyone's going to say. It's the home run derby. And it might be at this point because, again, the home run derby, you do have to change your swing a little bit, and you kind of have to change your approach, and all you're doing for the first few hours when you get to the ballpark, or at least for James Wood's case, you're trying to hit bolts. You're trying to get that launch angle, and you're trying to hit home runs. Maybe that has messed up his swing because, again, since his 5-hit game against the Detroit Tigers back before the All-Star break, he has 4 of his last 40 with a 375 OPS. And again, this is the worst slump of his career. When he was called up in last July, James Wood just kind of hit the ground running. Like, it wasn't all too impressive. He wasn't really showing or showcasing the power at that point. But we all knew that he was going to be a superstar. We all knew that he was going to be this generation's star here in DC. And at this point, he is going through the worst struggle of his early career. I'm not worried about this long term. No one should be worried about James Wood in the long run here because this guy is a mega talent. He has taken huge steps up defensively, which we have seen here recently, flashing the leather. And James Wood, again, no worries overall about his performance. But I will say this, he is in the middle of the worst slump of his career. Tonight would be a nice night to kind of crack out of that because the Nationals, if you're going to win, you need James Wood to have your back. So his stock down for James Wood. Stock up for one of the bright performances of this weekend, Mitchell Parker. Mitchell Parker, again, similar to MacKenzie Gore, the start prior is coming off the worst start this season against Milwaukee with 7 earned runs. And this time around, he delivered a 6-inning, 2 earned run quality start, which quite frankly, I feel like we have not seen that from Parker in a long time. Mitchell Parker is this fascinating case at this point where quite frankly, I don't really see him being in the rotation long term. I think this is a short-term thing. Unfortunately, the magic pixie dust surrounding him has kind of worn off this past year. But I do think Mitchell Parker at this point is someone that you might be able to use as a bullpen piece. You might be able to use him as a spot start here and there. And quite frankly, I think that's okay. But at this point in time, Parker, you needed that. The Nationals, they needed that. A quality start delivered from your 4-5 starter, I'll take that any day of the week. And also Michael Soroka, I will shout him out as well, who is kind of in the discussion, have a stock up. But Michael Soroka on Friday night looked really good against a very potent Padres defense. And again, the Nationals ultimately just did not show up. But still, they got the lone win of this series, and we needed that win because we thought we did with MacKenzie Gore coming yesterday, but we all know what happened as we discussed that in the first segment of today's program. Stock down, MacKenzie Gore. He had a 3.02 ERA entering yesterday's game, and then if you give up 8 earned runs in 2 1/3 innings pitch, your ERA is going to inflate, and it inflated to a 3.59. I mean, talk about rough. That was rough. Just looking at his ERA after that, you're like, this guy was an all-star. MacKenzie Gore, and also, by the way, in his start in July, I think he has an ERA north of 7 at this point in July so far. So this is not new struggles for Gore at this point. But he is still someone that you can rely on. He has put enough deposits in the bank that you can say this guy is a number 1 or a number 2 starter on any given team. He is one of the best pitchers in the game today, in my opinion. And so far this season has been incredible. But similar to any other pitchers out there, especially some younger ones still trying to get their feet wet in the majors, it's going to be tough at times. And with Gore entering his 3rd full season here in DC, this has just been kind of one of his rough stretches. And if we've kind of seen the numbers these past few years, this is not new with Gore. Gore has struggled in the months of July and August, and then ultimately has finished strong in years past also. But for whatever reason, when the calendar hits July, really July has been his worst month by far, that's kind of when things start to unravel for him. So if the Nationals were to shop him at this point in time, just hypothetically speaking, not saying they will, not saying they won't, but if they were, his value might be down by just a little bit. Just a little. And if you were to kind of take things with a grain of salt, I think we would all be able to kind of wipe everything clean because MacKenzie Gore, again, has shown plenty with the Washington Nationals at this point in time. But coming off some bad starts here, and again, his worst start of his career yesterday, 8 earned runs in 2 1/3 innings pitched, 3.59 ERA. The start prior to that had a 3.02 ERA. Just over a half run difference in just one start. Tough day at the office for MacKenzie Gore. So he gets a stock down. A stock up for a guy who has not been mentioned on a stock up all season long, Riley Adams. 2 home runs in his past 7 games. And quite frankly, stock up. It could have been Michael Soroka, but I feel like I've talked a lot about Soroka recently. We a lot this season, and 2 home runs in his past 7 games. This is something that we finally have seen, because one thing I did want to mention with Riley Adams, his overall numbers and the analytics surrounding him tell a totally different story compared to his actual real numbers. And what I mean by that is his average exit velo is actually up from years past. His swing speed is up from years past. Yet it has not equated to any sort of success. So you might dismiss those analytics, and honestly, you might have a good case, but he is one of those things where Riley Adams, you could use him as a case study. You could use this guy and say, what has gone wrong? Because again, if you have higher exit velos, obviously you're more likely to get hits. If you have higher bat speed, you're more likely to generate a tad more power than those who have slower bat speeds, like Keibert Ruiz, who has some of the slowest in Major League Baseball. Riley Adams, though, again, 2 home runs. This is kind of what we wanted to see. And we have seen Riley Adams hit with power in years past. We have seen him come in and really the first half of last season when he was lighting the ball on fire and we all kind of were clamoring for him to be the starter in front of Keibert Ruiz. This season just has not been that case at all. And Drew Millis at this point has been the starter. And quite frankly, I think he should be moving forward. But stock up for Riley Adams, finally starting to see some power. Brad Lord is back in the starting rotation, and I'm really excited for it because he has proven a lot of people wrong this season, and he might not just be a bullpen piece. This guy might be for real. We'll talk about that after this. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it more thrilling? And with FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. And I've been using FanDuel to track all my favorite matchup in the apps that keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. Like tonight with the Reds coming to town against the Nationals, maybe James Wood breaks out of this slump. Maybe you've got him going 2+ hits and you can add a little bit of dough in your account, have some money in there. And of course, watch the game, but also make some money while watching the game. It makes it even more fun. And whether I'm placing a same game parlay or watching a bet ride into the 9th inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. So if you're new to FanDuel, well, new FanDuel customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And yes, if you have not subscribed on YouTube already, we have the video version. Again, look up Locked On Nationals. That is where you'll find your latest daily video coverage of the Washington Nationals, Monday through Friday. Yes, we've got you covered to talk about this said baseball team with the next upcoming week or so. The trade deadline, 10 days away from it. What will the Nationals do? We'll have much more as the week goes on and as the Nationals start to make some moves, because Ken Rosenthal did report they are expected to sell. And there are a couple surprising names in there that we'll have on tomorrow's program. So stay tuned for that on Tuesday's show. But now we get into Brad Lord with the Nationals. Brad Lord is now back in the starting rotation, and he deserves this moment because Brad Lord so far this season has been the Nationals, quite frankly, ace out of the bullpen outside of Kyle Finnegan. And yeah, Kyle Finnegan gave up 5 earned runs on Friday's start. So he now it just ruined his ERA. But even then, it's not going to kill his trade value. I think Kyle Finnegan has done enough over the years that you can say this guy will be reliable over time. But outside of Kyle Finnegan, Brad Lord has been the guy. If you need innings eaten out of the bullpen, Brad Lord was there. If there is a tie game in the 7th inning and you need to keep runners on the base pass and not have anyone score, Brad Lord was the guy. He has been the guy out of the bullpen. He has deserved a spot in this rotation. And honestly, I'm really excited for this at this point in time because, again, Brad Lord, I believe, deserves this opportunity. When he was at first when he made the major league roster for this team, it was a little surprising because I thought the Nationals would kind of take their time with him, considering he was, an 18th round pick just back in 2022. I thought the Nationals would kind of take their time with Lord, but he has proven that this is someone that the Nationals can rely on. And now being in this rotation every 5 days, this is going to be what the Nationals want to see from him. I could kind of see a similar timeline as far as Trevor Williams goes and kind of what we expect from him. I don't think Brad Lord is going to go 6-7 innings pitch at a time. I think he's going to be capped at 5 innings pitched, and that will be that. And that's actually a good thing for where this team is at this point, by the way, because there were at times earlier on this season where Brad Lord was delivering some solid starts for this team. He had a stretch back in late April into early on in May where he was getting the start every 5 days, and he was doing a really good job with it. I'm excited to see what Brad Lord can do. And also, this is what the Nationals should be doing. If you have gotten young, unproven guys, then you should be able to play them every single day. You should try to get them every opportunity to succeed and figure out if this person is a long-term answer. Good thing is with Lord, we know he's going to be a long-term answer out of the bullpen. But you're going to have to try to find out if he is a starting guy for this team, if he is going to be one of the starting five. And if he can be, great. And if he's not, then okay, you've got someone solid out of the bullpen. Brad Lord has been on a heater as of late. And again, I think the Nationals are finally starting to kind of understand that this guy does have the opportunity to be in every guy kind of in this rotation. So I'm excited for Brad Lord. He makes his next start tomorrow night against Chase Burns and the Cincinnati Reds, which will be a pretty exciting series. But tonight, again, the Reds are in town. So let's jump into that preview real quick because, again, the Nationals, they are going to have a really tough series against a very good NL Central ball club. But tonight, you have got Jake over on the bump today. He has been a solid pitcher at times, but even then, the past month or so has not treated him too well. You've got Brady Singer on the bump tonight for the Reds, who they brought in this offseason, and he kind of has not been the same as what he was with the Royals this past year. 19 starts and 100 innings pitched on the nose. He has got a 4.32 ERA in that time frame, 92 strikeouts and 100 innings pitched. His whip is inflated compared to last year because he has been walking a little bit more, guys. 40 walks in 100 innings pitched, and last year 180 innings pitched only had 54 walks. So obviously not the greatest stat that you want to see, because his batting average is down compared to last season, but even then, walking a ton of guys. Unfortunately for the Nationals, we do not really take many walks outside of James Wood. So the Nationals are going to be aggressive, and they should be. This is one of those things where you are going to have to take advantage of a bad pitcher at this point. Now, he's not a bad pitcher. Even then, he's had some rough starts here and there. But this is someone that you can take advantage of, and you can actually get in there and compete. Now, if James Wood is not going to be the star of the show, because again, he has been in the worst slump of his career, I'm looking at Luis Garcia Jr. I am looking at guys like Nathaniel Lowe, Josh Bell. Put the team in your back, and let's try to win some games. Because this season, quite frankly, is lost at this point, and you've got the trade deadline coming up in 10 days. Start improving some trade value, and maybe win a couple games, because you can't tank. You're not picking inside the top 10 next year, according to MLB rules. So the Nationals, they've got a tough road ahead of them, but hopefully we'll persevere. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Have a good one. Go Nats.